Hello everyone, welcome back to Just Invest Today. Alibaba's earnings came out for Q3. Man, honestly, I think it was disappointing. It wasn't what I was expecting. I thought they were going to be killing everything on these earnings calls and these earnings overall. Man, it's not giving Alibaba the best signal for a lot of investors to get in right now. That's why it's down 6% for the day. I understand the hype for these earnings, but man, it kind of disappointed. There is a lot of good signs in this earnings that you can kind of see for the future that it's building up to. But for right now, it's just not looking good. If you want to reignite Alibaba, the bull thesis, as much as everyone kind of wants to get back into Alibaba, they can't right now. They're going to be very hesitant, especially when you're seeing Meta growing like what, 20%. You see Google pretty much still growing. You see like there's all these big techs, not Tesla, not really Apple. You see Microsoft still growing heavily. So like, why would you go into Alibaba right now, even though it's cheap and people are still gonna think it's a value trap when you have other companies in USA and people seemingly think it's less risky, or people kind of know it's less risky inherently? Why go into Alibaba when you have companies like Facebook killing earnings, right? So it makes sense why people are just not getting into Alibaba. They're going to start selling again, which we're seeing today. We're going to get into earnings. I want to know your overall thoughts when I break everything down, because there is still hope for Alibaba overall. Guys, let's get into this video. Let's break down these earnings. It's super important to like look at the details and kind of get in there. So let's go over everything that's Alibaba today. So firstly, we're going to get into the overall results of Alibaba, but let's get into this earnings right now and the earnings beat, because that's what everyone focuses on, like the quarter beat, the revenue beat. So it did beat on EPS by like 3 cents, and it did beat on revenue by like $270 million, which was like a 5% revenue growth quarter over quarter. So that's not bad, but that's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on the overall sentiment kind of going into earnings. Well, people thought it was going to get 8 to 9%, kind of go back to like where Alibaba should be, because remember last quarter it did 8% revenue growth. So it kind of went back down to where people are thinking revenue growth is going to be overall for Alibaba going into the future. So people are kind of more realistically believing it's going to be around 5%. That's kind of disappointing for me personally, because I thought it was going to be like 8-10%, kind of get me hype again for Alibaba stock. I'm still hyped for the stock. I still believe in the company overall long term, but man, this would be amazing if they just like killed it for this quarter, man. It would be really, really good and nice to see. So overall, Alibaba did 5% revenue growth, adjusted EBITDA 1%, adjusted EPS down 2. And this is adjusted because they did way worse on the EPS, but this was including in like impairments and stuff that happened with the company that were kind of one-time things. And then the share count going down 3.3%. I would have loved to see this way bigger. And this is kind of this is one of the biggest things that we're seeing with Alibaba, as they have so much cash on the balance sheet. They have like a net cash around $68 billion, which is insane, but they're not like using it fully. And this is what we got to see with Alibaba going forward. 3.3% reduction is a lot overall, but we just got to see more, because we know they have more in the tank to kind of reduce this way faster. Okay, so for the quarter, year over year, Taobao and Tmall did 2%. Cloud Intelligence Group did only 3%. This is kind of huge because we are still hoping for the cloud to grow faster. They're really working hard for the cloud to grow. So we just have to keep giving it time. And I know it's super hard to do that while they've been promising like way bigger growth when it was like back in like whatever, 2000 and 2021, but it's not seeing that. But when you look at the overall market, no one's cloud growth in China is growing super fast. So that's how I can kind of see like, damn, like it's not just like a Alibaba thing. It's like everyone's like Tencent, whatever, whoever has a cloud like market is not growing fast. No one's really spending hand over fist in IT and in cloud intelligence right now. So that's how I have hope for this cloud business. Once people in China start actually spending money in cloud, I can kind of see like Baba taking off, because they have majority of the market share. So I'm still hoping for that. International growth is just Alibaba's bread and butter right now, 44%. So Lazada, Trendyol, Turkey, Southeast Asia, they're doing incredible. AliExpress, incredible right now. So that's like the brightest sign. And hopefully this can maybe take up a large part of their growth going forward. Who knows? This is becoming a really crazy growth driver for Alibaba. So that's huge positive. We still have Xiao now, logistics 24%, local services 13%, digital media. So overall, 6% or consolidated revenue 5%. So 5% revenue growth is not that bad when you think about how big Alibaba is, the size of the company, and just like the overall sentiment in the China market. It's literally not that bad. So my hope is just the future, it can just grow back to 8% because we just saw 8% last quarter. So we know Alibaba can reach that, especially when the demand kind of picks up, because they don't want to kind of just go into the whole price war with PDD and just drop all their prices and just get crazy amount of stuff, right? So income from operations dropped 36%, negative 36%. You understand why. It's the amortization, intangible assets, they just kind of went down because they have bigger impairments. They kind of mentioned that net income down 77%, same thing, same kind of thing. So we're just gonna kind of avoid that because those are one-time impairments that Alibaba said. So they have free cash flow of $8 billion just for one quarter. So if you times that by 4, that's $32 billion of free cash flow for the year. And I think that 8 billion is going to be way higher next quarter. So I'm just going to give it 8 billion. I'm just going to give 8 billion and just that 8 billion continue to grow for the next 4 quarters. So that's a free cash flow yield of 70% if it's if Alibaba stays at $180 billion market cap, which is pretty much where it's at right now, 17% free cash flow yield. And they're giving you a dividend. They're buying back your shares. You're going to see a growth around what, 5 to like maybe 8%. So that's going to be returning you what, 12, 13%, like going forward with no PE rise, with just that continued like kind of growth. So that isn't bad overall, right? So what happens when the market turns and then Alibaba gets what, 12, 13% growth? Because I think it's going to happen when the demand for the China market and the economy gets better, because Alibaba is a benchmark for the Chinese demand domestically. So when that picks up, which is gonna happen eventually, I think it's just gonna like Alibaba will explode, man. $68 billion of net cash. So I am not even including the net cash in this free cash flow yield argument that I just laid out. 17% free cash flow yield. I didn't even minus cash off the market cap, and I didn't even minus the equity investments off the market cap. So like that's probably around 30-40% yield on your money if you just back out the cash, the equity investments. So they're actually going through a process of reducing the employees. They're going through a process of getting rid of like what Sunart, and they're trying to sell like Fresh Shippo. They're trying to sell stuff and assets that they need, but like they can kind of get rid of to kind of get up all those margins and bring back all the margins, reduce all the employees. Like that's just going to generate more free cash flow, be able to buy back more shares. So that's why I see that as a positive going forward if you believe in Alibaba's future. So that is looking like a positive for Alibaba, and that's just how I'm seeing things. So this is where capital management and the management system is where I like it, but they got to do more. And that's what everyone in Alibaba wants. Like we just saw Facebook doing a $50 billion buyback, and look where their stock price is. Like Alibaba stock price is cheaper. They should be doing just as much, especially if they're generating so much free cash flow. That would get me way more excited about this earnings if they just said they're going to do crazy amount of buybacks and they're just going to kill it. They did say they're going to do a buyback program, increase their buybacks by $25 billion. But I still don't think it's enough. They got to do more than that, in my opinion. That's buying back around like what, 18% of the company at these prices, which is amazing. Can you imagine buying back 18% of your own company? Well, imagine they get that to 30 to 40%. They could do that easily, man, with the amount of cash they have, with the free cash flow they're generating, with the equity investments they have on their balance sheet. Man, that would just explode the stock in the next 3 to 4 years if they do that, because the prices of Alibaba stock is super cheap. They can just buy back so much more of the company if the prices remain the same. And then if the prices remain the same and then we saw a huge growth trajectory in the next 5 years, man, the stock price is going to be 500, 600, 700. It's going to be out of here because they've just been buying back so many shares at the current price of like $74. And then when that EPS grows and ignites and the revenue growth comes back, boom, Alibaba is just out of here. $300, $400, $500, $600 share price. So guys, what do you think about the overall picture of Alibaba, short term, long term? Were you disappointed? Were you happy with the results? Tell me it all right now. Leave your comments down below, like this video, subscribe to my channel. Peace.